Hello and welcome to this video, and this video is going to be called When Jazz Fusion Musicians Get Naked. Alright, so last week I did a lot of very serious videos. You know, I did one with Ben McLaughlin, the jazz documentary filmmaker, where we talked about the future of jazz, and then I did two interviews with the incredible Matt Tavares, the founder member of Bad Bad Not Good and producer to some of the biggest pop artists in the world. And the views are awful, and I had a message off YouTube this morning, and I'll just read what it says here. What did they send me? It says, "Oi Edwards, what do you think you're doing? Get back to doing stupid videos and top tens so you can get the viewers in." So that's what I got this morning. So I'm going to do precisely that this week. We're getting back to some top tens and we're going to get back to some stupid videos. And this is going to be a silly video, so I've warned you already. So what's this about? Well, it appears that there was a little bit of a phenomenon in the late 70s in the music industry. In the early 70s, the record companies had signed up all these incredible virtuoso musicians to play this music that was actually selling, instrumental music, you know, jazz rock fusion. Once disco came along in the mid-70s, the industry moved elsewhere, and it sort of, I think, put an ultimatum out to many of these jazz rock fusion musicians and said, look, you're going to have to get commercial. And I think what must have happened is the music industry must have realised the erotic potential that they had lurking in the jazz rock community, right? Oh my God, we've got some very, very, you know, sexy jazz musicians there. So they were persuaded to take their shirts off for a variety of different album covers. When I see one of these album covers, it automatically makes me hate the album to start off with. Oh, I've got a phone call coming in. I told you a silly video. Let's see who this is. This is Rob. You right, Rob? I know, I'm doing a YouTube video right now. You're on film. Can I call? What's the? Shall I put you on loudspeaker? Hang on. Can you hear this, YouTubers? This is Rob Growcut. I'm doing. Say hello to them all. I'm doing a video on. It's called When Jazz Rock Musicians Get Naked.
Oh, that's perfect. That's right up my street.
I thought so. I thought there's going to be one person watching. It'll be you. So I'm doing it right now. Have you got a message for me? Shall I call you?
This is actually why. This must have been why I felt like I needed to call Rob.
I knew that. I thought as soon as you do that, you're going to feel it. You know, the vibes of this will transport out into the world.
Yeah, I just felt a need to call you.
And you've actually managed to get in the video as well. So, shall I just finish this video? It'll take me about 20 minutes. It's only going to be a short one because there's not much to say.
That's fine.
All right, and I'll call you back in a minute.
Take it away.
Lovely, thank you. See you in a bit. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So as you can see, you know, this is a video that everybody wants. You know, I know that. So, where was I? In the late 70s, there was this spate of album covers where musicians appeared to have their shirt off. Whether they were fully naked, I don't know. When I imagine the scenario for these album covers, I think, well, if they're sat up with just their shirt off, that seems a bit strange, like they've been doing a job. It's not that erotic. If they're sat there in their pants, well, I just don't like the thought of that. So I like to think that all these musicians in these photos are fully naked. It's the only way I can really make this scenario work in my mind. Right now, I've done a top 10. I've rated them from, you know, quite sexy to incredibly sexy. But as we go down this list, there are some real horror shows here, and I do warn you, and I will warn you when we get to the really terrible ones, because you may want to look away. I don't want to cause like PTSD in any of my viewers, but I know this is an important subject and I know I've got to deal with it at some point. So I'm going to kick off firstly with some examples when musicians get it right. Okay, so here we have Miles Davis on the cover of Doo Wop. Doo Wop was his last album, pretty much, of original material, that is, and he did this sort of hip-hop, jazz rock crossover album. He was there pretty early. This was an important genre at the time. It's not a bad album, it's not a good album, it's somewhere in the middle. It's an interesting album, but you can see there Miles Davis, who is like, you know, he's at the point of death here, and he's still able to sit with his shirt off on an album cover and look super cool and not make us feel in any way sexually aroused or disturbed. You know, that is textbook, right? Here's another example of when musicians do it right. The aforementioned Matt Tavares was in a band called Bad Bad Not Good, and here they are all with their shirts off and wrapped in towels, as you can see. Look at that. And that I think is the best postmodernist take on the 70s phenomenon of naked jazz rock musicians. There they do it there. They've got the towels. They're baring their chest to the world, but we know there's a knowing nod. They know what they're doing. They don't fully believe in this, and that's why I think they're having a little bit of a laugh. Right, now, if we go back to the 70s, I'm going to show you an example of a musician doing the shirt off technique where it sort of works. I don't know, I'll let you be the decide. So here's Prince's debut album, and you can see he's got his shirt off, he's standing there, or sitting there, we don't quite know. It looks like he's cross-legged actually, and he's got his arm across, so he's obviously naked but covering up the areas he doesn't want the photographer to see. But that's what do you think to that? I don't know. He's sort of getting away, because it's Prince, isn't it? It's like Miles Davis, Prince, they can take their shirt off and get away with it. I think that's the point here, is that certain musicians can get away with it, other musicians shouldn't do it, right? So let's get straight in at number one. Right, here we have the musician that probably created my YouTube, This Is Why I'm Here, my favourite musician on the planet, and here we have John McLaughlin, said it correctly this time, with his shirt off on the front of Inner Worlds, right? Inner Worlds is a troublesome album for Mahavishnu Orchestra fans. A good album, but a departure from the sound before. And I feel that the reason for that was, if you listen to it, it is quite funky, and they are trying in places just to move forward and get with the times. And I think so. The record company must have come to John and said, you know, you've got a few funky tracks on, you know, Planetary Citizen, we might release that as a single, and I really think you need to take your shirt off. When John McLaughlin takes his shirt off, it doesn't have that erotic scenario for me. I feel it's more spiritual. He's got his shirt off for spiritual reasons on this. You can see there's like a glow behind, there's a light, the light of enlightenment is glowing from behind him. So he's obviously in some sort of spiritual space and he's contemplating things with no shirt on. It's sort of more of a one with nature, I've always felt, with this album cover. So this really is, it's not that disturbing for me, but I put it on the list because I think it really represents how far this, what would you call it, how far this thing, I can't think of the word, this, what would you call it in the 70s, like these, I've got to give it a name. Oh God. I'm going to come up with a name. It's the last thing. Tendency. I'm going to call it the tendency from now on. So this tendency is really represented well with John McLaughlin here, because here we have probably the biggest fusion band, and here they are kowtowing to the tendency. Right, so what have I got at number two? Right, who's this at number two? Herb Alpert. I ain't got a clue what the name of the album cover is. Let's just click on it so I can see. Come on. Are you going to go bigger? I'm talking about my computer. So this is, what the hell's this called? It's called, what is it called? I can't read that. There's yellow on grey writing. This is proper 70s. It's something about a horn. It's not blow your own horn. Yeah, so this is Blow Your Own Horn by Herb Alpert. And he's sort of, he's in a crouching position, isn't he? I don't really like that. It could be just shyness that he's trying to you know, cover his modesty with that trumpet. Or it could be he's trying out the album cover title. I don't know. Anyway, this is Herb Alpert. What Herb Alpert occupies a funny place in jazz rock fusion, doesn't he? He is like your most middle of the road sort of, you know, easy listening Miyazaki artist. We don't even consider him really. I've never mentioned him on the channel. Fantastic player, around for a lot of time, sold a ton of records, you know, set up a record label, all that sort of stuff. And you know, there he is, looking very serious with his trumpet, with his shirt off. That is a classic example of the tendency, isn't it? So that's what I've got at number two. At number 3, what have I got at number 3? Now I've had to number them in order, because so when I say number 1, Mavish Nuksha wasn't number 1, it was number 10. I'm going up, so when we get to number 10, that will be number 1. Do you understand the concept here? I've turned it around a little bit here, for no reason whatsoever. So what have we got at number 3? We have Grover Washington Jr. Of course Grover's going to do it. Grover just represents that sort of, you know, limpid disco jazz. He does it brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly, and I like a lot of Grover Washington's stuff, even though it is so insipid. And of course at some point he's going to do one of these albums, you know, where he's got his shirts off, and what we're seeing here now is the beginning of the slight innuendo title. This one is called Feels So Good, and it's arranged by Bob James. I'm assuming they're not talking about Bob James arranging the Feeling Good, although he could well have done this, and I wonder whether he was there when this photograph was taken, making the sort of ambience of this album feel good. I just don't know, but obviously, Grover Washington was worried about this sort of sexual display. And what a display, because there is one of the great hairy chests of jazz there. Look at that, that is monumental. We've got the full beard, but if you look, there's a blue halo, right? There's a blue halo of worthiness around his head. Grover's saintly on this album. And this really represents the great binary for me that exists in music, you know, of the enlightened, sacred and the profane. That is precisely what the blues is. Grover's really embodied the blues on the front of this album cover, hasn't he? Don't you think? You really think? Right, let's move on. So number 3. At number 4, right, we have, right, and he's got to be on the list because he's responsible for some of the most awful album covers in history. You know, I've discussed the awfulness of his album covers before. They won't open, so I'm going to have to look really close. Why won't you open? Right, so Aldo Meola, here it is. What the hell's the name of this album cover? It's, see, many years ago I had counselling about these album covers, and a lot of these albums were wiped away out of my memory, and I've had to revisit them now, and I'm having real trouble remembering the names of any of these albums. So this is called Elysium, and there's Al, shirt off, very much like Grover Washington. He's got the necklaces. I've got one here. So it's a very sort of jazz thing to have that necklace there. He's got glasses on, and he's holding his chin. He's crouching, but I really don't like the look in Al's eyes on this album cover. There's something about his look. I don't know what his intentions are with this. It's quite disturbing to me. And this album particularly, you know, when I first saw this album cover, I really did have nightmares where I couldn't close my eyes without seeing that face and those bare shoulders, you know, bearing down on me. It was quite frightening, and it's the hair as well. I do not understand Aldo Meola's hair. You know, he's like 70. How old is he now? 78 years old. He's still got the same hair, and yet when you go back to some of the early 80s albums, I'm sure he's thinning. Right, but when you look at that, does that look like a wig to you? It doesn't, does it? That's what is that hair? I think Aldo Meola made so much money in the 70s with those albums. He has been able to get his hair from the same place where American presidential candidates get their hair. He's got that same type of hair. It's magnificent, right? It's magnificent, and this is a really great representation of that hair on there. And I think he's sported a pretty hairy chest. I've always imagined Aldo Meola to be a very hairy man, and we've nearly got proof of that here, but not. But anyway, I'm going to move on now because I'm looking at it and it's making me. He's frightening me now with that look. I don't like it. So anyway, we're going to move on to number 5, right? Who is the king of Muzak? Who is the greatest of the Muzak musicians? There's one guy that I absolutely love, and it is Roy Ayers. Roy Ayers can do no wrong, right? Roy Ayers makes disco-y, funky jazz rock fusion, and I absolutely love it. He's the guy that influenced all that neo soul stuff. He's he's influenced hip hop. And I haven't mentioned him on the channel. I really do like Roy Ayers. I think he's a cool guy. And here he is with an album with his band Ubiquity called Vibrations. Again, a slightly salacious title, but not too much. And I feel that Roy he is quite, for all the sort of sexual power that he puts across on his records, he seems quite shy here. He hasn't got a trumpet to hide behind. And so he's hiding behind his vibraphone there. And actually, if you look, it looks as though there is sort of smoke billowing up to cover what may have been a little bit of a fat belly, you know, because that was what I would be worried about, especially with that pose, you know. I don't know whether that belly was just sort of pushing into the vibraphone keys, and then you had some lines that wasn't aesthetically pleasing, and so maybe they airbrushed in some smoke, or maybe it is simply the fact that when Roy Ayre takes his shirts off, he sort of exudes smoke from his body. It could be any of these things. But that's the man who's not confident with his shirt off. And I can say I'm the same. Because when I decided to do this video, I thought, really I need to do it with my shirt off. And I considered it, but I thought, no, I cannot do it. It is absolutely ethically wrong to sit there with your shirt off, even if you're doing it ironically for this video. I could not bring myself to do it. I have too much, you know, self-respect to do it. But these jazz musicians, for all their virtuosity, there they are, at the drop of a hat. As soon as the record company says, we want you to take your shirt off, there they are. Roy's not happy with it there. Right, we're now moving into some real, an area now. We're going to start moving up. Right here. As we've seen, a lot of these musicians, they're not confident to show much below there. You know, we're getting a bit of chest, we're getting no belly whatsoever. Here's a guy that knows how to do it properly. This is probably your classic shirt off late 70s jazz fusion music album cover, and it is, believe it or not, by Eddie Henderson. Look at Eddie there, running to your love, and there he is, full chest, bit of stomach, belly button he wasn't confident with. He's got the flugelhorn, and a flugelhorn is a better instrument to hide behind the trumpet. There's more mass there, and he's got the flugelhorn ready, and he probably was clutching it close to his chest when they did this photography session, and he went, no, I'm proud of myself, and he exposed it all. Another interesting note, we're talking about Aldi Meola with his terrible album covers. Throughout the early 70s, if you look at the classic ones, Elegant Gypsy, Land of the Midnights, no, not Land of the Midnights, Elegant Gypsy, Casino, Splendido Hotel, they all feature, go and have a look, they feature the Aldi Meola fern. And here, he has borrowed, you know, from Aldi Meola, the fern. You can see it on the left of his head. They've also brought another plant in that's coming in. Well, we're thinking it plant. It could be anything really. There's some sort of spiky thing going on in the top right hand corner. I'm not too sure what that is. But I'm sure that having that fern there, especially with Aldi Meola, that gave Eddie the confidence to try and pull off this album cover. That is classic. Look at it. That is classic. What makes a jazz musician choose to make an album cover like that? Right, can you imagine Thelonious Monk doing that, or John Coltrane? No, this is a special thing in the 70s. I need to draw attention to it. Right, so that was whatever it was. Number 6, was it? Was that number, what was it? Number 6. So we're into the top 5 now. It does start to get, no, I'm not. I've got the wrong order. Roy Ayres was at number 5, and that was at number 6. I tell you, it's that Aldi Meola cover. It's knocked me out. So I've gone all to pot now, and I can't even bring it back. I'm getting really upset. He's upset me, Aldi Meola has. Oh, right. What did the counsellor tell me? He said, you know, think of nice things. Think of nice things. You know, he's not going to get you, Abby. He's not going to get you. So what are we on now? God, number 4. What the hell's number 4? I've lost it. Right. No, it's not number 4. What number is I'm really sorry, but I'm getting really upset with this. When you're a YouTuber like me, it takes a lot out of you, I tell you. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot and when you're dealing with a subject like this, you know, it really does bring up emotions that, you know, you've kept under lock and key the whole time, and then, you know, you to be in front of people, you know, trying to explain this tendency and the sort of the cognitive dissonance that it creates when you see something like this, and it's not that sort of cognitive dissonance is best represented by the album I've got at number 7. which is number 4, isn't it? And it is this one. Let's open it up now. Are you going to open up? Tony Williams, $1 Million Legs. Tony Williams forms one of the greatest fusion bands in the mid-70s with Alan Holdsworth on guitar. He makes an album called Believe It. He's one of the greatest jazz rock musicians. But he's got his shirt off on that one. Right? You think, you know, this is a great album. I wanted to see something on the front that was like, I wanted to see like I don't know, a phoenix rising over a volcano. That's what I want on a jazz rock album cover. I want to see something in space, you know, I want to see pharaohs. I don't want to see Tony Williams with his shirt off, but it's black and white on Believe It. I believe that I have put the Believe It album cover up now and you can have a look at it. But this one is absolutely terrible. There he is, lying on the floor, grinning below the legs of these two girls. This is another thing that I might have to deal with in another video. It's the phenomenon that happened at the same time where jazz musicians get like they get ladies on the cover, and these ladies always seem to be very attracted to the jazz musician, although in real life you know they wouldn't be. The classic person to do that would be George Duke. Think of Reach For It, you know, there's George Duke, amazing player, but you know, he's a big man and he's got all these girls around him and you think, yeah, they after you for your jazz knowledge, you know, what are they after you for, you know? And here's Tony Williams in even a more compromising position. I mean, what is he there to spy? What is he there for? What is he doing? I just find this absolutely disturbing. From now on, it does get disturbing. And of course, that group, this album's crap. Right, it shouldn't be crap. There's some nice Holdsworth solos on there. I'm sure Tony Williams fans start shouting, "Oh, really good, it's really good." Yeah, but it's not Believe It, is it? Right, what is he doing? He nearly had it then. Tony Williams nearly had jazz rock in the palm of his hand, didn't he? And he goes and makes that pile of crap. Why? You know, because he wanted to sell some records. What was going on in their head? Why do you buy Tony Williams' album? For Tony Williams drumming, for Tony Williams exploring the outer limits. What is he known for that? So why the hell did he try and make a disco album? What did he think was going to happen? That the disco fan base would go, oh, let's go and check out Tony Williams. He's got no shirt on and he's looking up girls' legs. You know, what was going on? What's going on in their mind? I find it really, really disturbing. What happened to my heroes at this point in time? It's always upset me. Right. Well, the one I've got next, number 8, or if you're counting down from 1, it would be number 3, or I think. When I decided to do this video, I knew what was going to be at number 1. It was going to be this one. This is so truly awful, and also, you know, I like to, you know, give credit to innovation when I can, and this is possibly the first. This goes right back to 1971, and it is Herbie Man. Get ready. You might want to get ready for this. Herbie Man with an album called Push Push. Full chest, belly button, flute. You can't hide behind a flute anyway, and he's not going to. He's holding it over his shoulder like Huckleberry Finn. Right, if you look very carefully, his head doesn't quite seem to match the body. Right, there you have that snaking body, and the belly button right down the bottom. You know, it's like he hasn't put the belly button on. He wouldn't have put the belly button on, has he? Oh my God, he has. It's stuck in. It's stuck into the picture. This is just. Depending on what side you're on, this is classic tendency, or this is disturbing. Look at that. Look at the look on his face. Why did Herbie Man? I mean, how old is Herbie Man there? He's probably about 70 years old there. What possesses it? I mean, he's in good shape. He's in good. I'll give you that. He's in good shape. But he's snaking. He's snaking. You know, naked and snaking. I would have put that as the album cover, not Push Push. What were they thinking? But this guy, this is a pioneering album cover. This is where this tendency is born. That's where it is, right? I'm going to go to a number 2 now. This is truly awful. I'm probably not going to say anything about this. This album cover predates that Herbie Man album cover. I'm not going to say much about this. If you are of a sensitive nature, you might not want to look, and I promise you, this will not make you feel comfortable. I don't know what to say. You ready for it? I'm going to count this down. Now, 1, I'm going to count down from 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. Larry Coryell, the great pioneer of jazz rock, he should really be upheld as being the sort of one of the main architects of jazz rock. He was there right at the beginning, and he was there right at the beginning with this album. I'm pretty sure if he didn't have this cover, we'd be talking in the same breath as Aldi Meola and John McLaughlin and Joe Zawinul and Herbie Hancock. But no, we're not, are we? I know you want me to move on, and I know what you're saying now. You're saying if Herbie Man was at number 3, but then you see that Larry Coryell and go, fair enough. And this is a completely different beast, isn't it, to the other ones? It's a completely different beast. What the hell could be at number 1, right? I didn't think there could be anything more disturbing than this one. And just as I was going to do the list and finish the list, I discovered this album. It is, if I can find it on my thing. I have to be able to see them when I'm talking about it, see, so I'm clicking up the cover. So. Oh my God. What is going on here? Kevin Eubanks, the great Kevin Eubanks. Like, Kevin Eubanks was the jazz guitarist, jazz fusion guitarist in the 80s and 90s. I can remember being in America and putting the television on. Who's ringing me up now? Hang on, sorry about this. Oh, I can't answer it. I'll have to recall him up in a bit. So, the jazz world knows I'm making this video, and they're all calling me up. You're not doing the video. Yeah, I'm doing the video. I'm doing it right now. I was doing it. I was doing the video. Then you called me up. It's like Faulty Towers, isn't it? When the wife's telling him to put that moose head up, and he's trying to put it up, and every time he goes to put it up, somebody calls him up. Or Father Ted, you know, that bloke. I'm like that. That happens to me all the time, right? Anyway, this one, I don't even know where to start. Let's just have a go at it, shall we? Right, so yeah, he's got the shirt off, full shirt off, belly button showing, no instrument to hide it. He's got trousers on. I don't know what he's doing. Is he just hot, or is he doing a job? Fair enough, right? Secondly, right, it's a painting, right? He might not look like that in real life. I could do that. I could say, I'm going to have a painting of myself on my album cover, and I'm going to paint myself looking muscly with bulging pecs and oiled up. That's a good idea. Now, come on, give me an artist to call up. Hello, artist. Can you do me a painting of me? I want to have my shirt off, and I want to be oiled up with my pecs showing. And I want to be inside a floating porthole that has some esoteric symbol at the bottom. And it needs to be encrusted with jewels. Can you do that? But it's just floating in midair. Right? And I want to be in a room, and that room's got a window, and it's overlooking it's overlooking outside. I can't even get my words out with this. But when you look through the porthole, it's a magic porthole that turns it into daytime. But when you don't look through the magic porthole, it's night time, right? And that will resonate with the title of this, which is going to be called, which I can't read, Promise of Tomorrow. Ah, you see, so it's night time. So that floating esoteric porthole, it represents a promise to the future. So obviously, if it's turning night into day, when it looks at Kevin Eubanks, it turns a scrawny, sexless jazz rock musician into an oily, shiny hunk. I'm starting to understand it now. Yes, I can see how this works now. Right? The way this is done is just absolutely awful. The typeface they've used, Kevin in that sort of, he's been scrawled on in some sort of, you know, oriental pen, and then Eubanks with the 80s spacing between the letters, and then some more scrawl, promise of tomorrow underneath with some lines underneath, but the line's broken up because you got the dot. Oh, it's just, the whole thing's a mess. It hasn't been well done. Who's responsible for this? I tell you who's responsible for this. GRP. GRP, you know, they're a blight to jazz. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say GRP was a blight to jazz. There are too many well-produced, well-recorded, awful, middle-of-the-road jazz albums with terrible covers. And they're not terrible in the 70s disco coked up, I'm going to be a sex beast on the front of an album cover. They're weirder than that. They're always trying to portray these jazz musicians as being some sort of... I got a new camera and it all went wrong. It just switched off for no reason. Right, so I'm going to finish the video now. If you like the new camera and it looks better, please tell me, because it's the right pain in the bum trying to use this thing. It's too complex for me. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.